So we're going to go through elasticity today. So price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand. So we'll, what I'm going to do here, 1 second. So as price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. So as price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. Price elasticity of demand shows the quantity demanded that goes down per price increase. So it shows it shows the size of the drop in quantity demanded due to price increases. So that's what price elasticity of demand does. And the definition is percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. So this is how you calculate it. So you would take when the price of 4-star hotel rooms rose from $160 to $180, demand fell from 3,200 to 2,800 rooms per week. Calculate elasticity of demand. So you could do this through using the midpoint method. So this is one way of calculating it, but I recommend the other way is we would find the midpoint of rooms. So we do 3,200 minus 2,800. And then we divide that by 2. And that'll be 400 divided by 2 and be 200. So we have the midpoint for rooms, and then we find the midpoint for prices. So that would be 160 minus 180 divided by 2 equals -20 divided by 2 equals -10. So those are the midpoints we have to use. And then we have to do change in rooms divided by midpoint of rooms divided by change in prices divided by midpoint of prices. So that's how you calculate elasticity of demand. So there it would be, so we would do so that's the equation. I'm just going to update the midpoints. So the midpoints, to get the midpoints, I made a mistake there. So midpoint would be you add them together and divide by 2. So that'll be the midpoint. So 3,200 plus 2,800 equals divided by 2. So that would be 3,000. And then midpoint of prices would be 160 plus 180 divided by 2. And that'd be just 170. So then we'll take that information. And then, so change in rooms is 3,200 minus 2,800. We divide that by the midpoint. Then we divide that by the change in prices, 160 minus 180, divided by the midpoint. So that's how we would do that to get the elasticity of demand. So let's calculate that. So that'd be 400 divided by 3,000 here, divided by -20, that would be 170. So that's how you would do that. So let's calculate that. I'm just gonna enter that in and figure out what it is. So I'm just gonna check what that is. So it should be 1. So it's close to what they got. They rounded it for sure. So this would be negative 1.13. So basically for every $1 increase in 1% increase in price, the quantity demanded for rooms falls by 1%. So that's how you would do that here. That's how you would calculate the elasticity of demand for this example. So here, these are different graphs that could happen. So this one on the top, demand is unresponsive to a change in price, so demand doesn't change when price changes. And then here, the next one, demand changes by a smaller proportion than price. Next one, demand changes by the same proportion as price. Next one, demand changes by a larger proportion than price. And then the next one, any increase in price causes demand to fall to zero. And then here, this example, demand changes by a smaller proportion than price. If the price of gasoline goes up by 10%, quantity demanded for gasoline would reduce by less than 10%. So the reason for that is we need gasoline. So we will purchase it at a high quantity, even with high price increases, because we need to be able to transport to places. So we may purchase less gasoline when the price goes up, but we will still purchase it. So that's why we don't get rid of our purchases of gasoline there. And then here, if the price goes up by more, if the price goes up by 10%, the quantity demanded would reduce by more than 10%. An example is restaurant dining. The reason why is because we don't need restaurant dining. So we will buy much less of it if the price goes up. We can live without it, basically. So that's why there. And then factors affecting price elasticity of demand, necessity of goods or service. Necessities generally have lower elasticity than luxuries. Number of substitutes, fewer substitutes means lower elasticity, can't shop elsewhere. Addictiveness, the more addictive the good, the lower elasticity. So factors that affect price elasticity continued. Price and usefulness. So cheap and useful goods are generally less elastic. Price increases on a cheap good have little impact on purchasing power. So it's cheap enough so you can pay for it still, even if the price goes up. Time period, the longer the time is allowed to lapse, elasticity typically increases. Holidays booked far in advance, so price increases don't affect demand for a while. Consumer awareness, price of goods included as part of holiday packages may not be known by consumers and therefore may be inelastic. And then, so price elasticity is how much quantity demanded is affected by price changes. Percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price is how to get it. Or here it would be change in quantity demanded divided by midpoint of quantity demanded, and then divided by change in price divided by midpoint of price.
In the last.
So So if change in quantity sold is greater than change in price, demand is elastic and has greater effects on revenue. So if the price rises by 10% and quantity sold falls by more than 10%, total revenue will fall. And that's elastic demand. And then for inelastic demand, if rise in prices happens by 10%, quantity sold, demand falling by less than 10%, total revenue will rise. So a good example of this, if the price is 10, if the price rises by 10% and quantity sold reduces by 20%, the quantity sold would change from 200 to 160 units. So it would reduce by 20% in that case. For that would be elastic demand. So this would be for a product that, like, for example, this would be restaurants. Restaurants have elastic demand because we don't need restaurants. And then inelastic demand, if the price rises by 10% and quantity sold reduces by 5%, total revenue would increase by, so here total revenue would increase, in this case by $90. So that would be inelastic demand. So so like groceries have inelastic demand because we need groceries and we'll still buy them if the price goes up. And then cross price elasticity of demand. So cross price elasticity of demand measures the relationship between different goods and services. So it's calculated by a percentage change in quantity demanded product A divided by percentage change in price of product B. So substitutes. An increase in the price of product A leads to an increase in demand for product B. So cross price elasticity is positive, complements a increase in price of product A leads to a decrease in demand for product B. So cross price elasticity is negative. So, and then unrelated. So price elasticity of supply is the responsiveness of supply to change in price. So you get this through percentage change in quantity supplied divided by percentage change in price. So inelastic is supply cannot easily be changed, and elastic supply is more flexible. So how you calculate this is the best way to calculate it is to do change in quantity supplied divided by midpoint of quantity supplied divided by change in price divided by midpoint of price. So that's the best way to calculate it here. So I recommend use this calculation for this. And then, so inelastic supply changes by a smaller proportion than price, and elastic is when supply changes by a larger proportion than price. So factors affecting price elasticity of supply are time period. So the longer the time period allowed, the easier it is for supply to be changed. Supply relatively inelastic at short term. Fixed factors of production can be changed in longer term, so more elastic. Availability of stocks. So availability of stock for manufactured goods allows supply to be more flexible and more elastic. For businesses such as theaters and hotels, it's hard to have standby stocks, so supply is inelastic in the short run. So it's very difficult to have more. So in that case, if demand for theaters and hotels is very high, it is very difficult to provide more supply of theaters and hotels in the short run because you need to build more theaters and hotels. So that takes a long time to build and supply. So that's why there. So the factors affecting price elasticity of supply continued. Spare capacity. So having spare capacity can make supply more elastic. So airlines that have spare aircraft available for deployment. And then flexibility of capacity / resource mobility. So resources can be easily shifted, reallocated from one good / service to another. Flexibility of sports arenas. Capacity to shift from one leisure service to another based on changes in demand, more elastic. Flexibility of labor. Employees have to be multi-skilled to shift from one task to another. That's hard. People, they need to be retrained to shift, to do new things. To get new skills, they got to be retrained. And then you need to also, for certain goods, you need different machines. It's very difficult to shift from making one product to another because you might have to buy new machinery or get new factories or get new production capacities. So that's very difficult. That takes a long time. So it might be inelastic in supply because it takes a long time to get new factories and practice on this. So let's try this here. Maybe we'll try this game here. Yeah, if you want to do the percentage method, that's fine. Yeah, if you want to do the percentage method, you can do that. That's perfectly fine. That's the percent method is perfectly fine to use. Yeah. It's perfectly fine. But I'd recommend do it both, like, yeah, so feel free to use the percent method if you find that more comfortable for you. Yeah. It's totally up to what you prefer. So this is going to be more practice and price elasticity of supply for us. So I think we'll get started. There's no lockout period, so you can join anytime. Values price elasticity of supply is 3, which probably 10% 10% decrease in price will decrease the price. The cross price elasticity of demand between good actually goes up again. Because of the percentage change of the demand following the imposition of a $4 per unit tax in the market, the seller's offer tax price fall from the original equilibrium price of $12 to $11. Which of the following statements relating to the so the new after-tax equilibrium price is 15. The cross-price elasticity of demand between goods J and K is -3. A 20% decrease in the price of good K will result in a 60% increase in the price. Assuming the Yanktown elasticity of demand for goods Z equals 5.0, which the following is true. cross price elasticity of demand between goods J and K is -3. 20% decrease in the price of good K would result in a 60% increase in demand. Which of the following statements relating to negative elasticity is true? With negative elasticity going from 0.6, demand is inelastic and the with negative elasticity going from 5, a 10% increase in income will lead to a 50% increase. Which is not a determinant of price elasticity? The 10% increase in price of good X results in a 20% increase in time good Y demand in response to that. Good X and good Y are good X and good Y are complementary. The crop is less than what will happen to the price of money footballs as a result of the increase in the price of leather used to make footballs? Price will increase according to the price. Let's determine elasticity of demand between any two prices. Horizontal line represents perfectly elastic. Assume the government imposes a price floor above the previous price in the market, which the following will occur. There will be an excess supply. Given that the demand for bottled water is relatively price elastic, an increase in the supply of bottled water will result in which of the following? Elasticity formula is percentage change in volume over percentage. Demand changes drastically when prices change. So that's elastic. Measure of how consumers react to changing price elasticity of demand of 0 is perfectly inelastic. Assume that the price elasticity of supply for good Y is 0.5. Assume the price of good Y decreases by 3%. The quantity supplied of good Y will decrease by 15%. Assume that a 2% increase in the price of bologna causes a 5% decrease in the demand for cheese. What is the cross price elasticity of demand between the two goods and the cross price elasticity of demand is -2.5. What are the two demand for largest inelastic price? A vertical line represents perfectly inelastic demand. Measure of the way quantity supply reacts to change in price. Elasticity of supply. Price elasticity of demand price elasticity of demand less than 1 is inelastic. Determine whether two goods are complements when we calculate the cross price elasticity. Measure how much supply and demand will respond to change in consumer's income. Determine the percentage change in supply and demand divided by the percentage change in income. That would be income elasticity. Which of all is true of cross price elasticity? Great work, Kurt. Excellent. Wow. Great job, class. 223 questions answered correctly. Excellent work. Great job, Mark. Great job, all class. Thanks for great participation on that one, everyone. Great job. So we completed that there. So great work on that, everyone.
Check-in mo na to.
Oh, did somebody ask a question I didn't hear? So we'll move on to our next thing. So I have another presentation here. So I'll share it here. So elasticity of demand and supply. So think about an elastic band. If you want to change its shape, can you? And how easily can you do this? And then now think about a rock. If you want to change its shape without breaking it, can you? And how easily can you do so? So elasticity in economics shows how easily supply and demand respond to changes in prices. So if the price of Coca-Cola increased, would the quantity demand change? And by how much? Does Emma Ruther want to try this one? So the quantity, so quantity demanded would decrease. Yes, exactly. They can find substitutes for Coca-Cola. That's great. Great job, everyone. And then if the price of rice increased, would the quantity demand change? Yes, so good answer for the Coca-Cola one. The quantity demanded would change more than the change in price because it's a want. It's not a necessity. So great work. And then the rice example. So good point. It is a necessity. So the quantity demanded would decrease still, but by much less than the price increase. So it would decrease, the quantity demanded would decrease by a little bit. Yeah. And then if the price of tomatoes increased, would the quantity supplied change, and by how much? Yes. Good job. Supply would increase because they're going to make more money selling it. So great job. And if the price of pens increase, would the quantity supplied change, and by how much? Yeah, it's good. Yeah, quantity supplied will be the same if there's no spare capacity possible. But if there is spare capacity possible, supply would increase. But good point. It may be hard to have spare capacity. That's a good point to think about. Yeah, thanks for stating that, because there might not be enough spare capacity. So law of demand, when price rises, quantity demanded falls. So you, even if you want the same amount of the good, you can't afford to buy as much. So how much does demand fall? A lot or a little? So elasticity tells us this. So elasticity of demand. If the price changes and the quantity demanded changes a lot, the good is said to have elastic demand. So if the price of Coca-Cola increases, the quantity demanded will decrease a lot because there are many substitutes for Coca-Cola. Therefore, Coca-Cola has elastic demand. If the price changes and the quantity demanded changes a little, the good is said to have an inelastic demand. So if the price of cigarettes increases, the quantity demanded will decrease only a little because cigarettes are addictive and people will continue to buy them. Therefore, cigarettes have an inelastic demand. So this is the midpoint method of calculating price elasticity of demand here. Change in quantity demanded divided by average quantity demanded divided by change in price or average price divided by average price. Or you could do the percent method. So it's totally up to you if you want to do the percent method or the midpoint method. Totally up to you. Yeah, it's totally up to your preference. So here, the percent method, this is how you would do it. So it would be like, so the percent change in demand is percent. So percent method, you would do price elasticity of demand equals new quantity minus old initial quantity divided by initial quantity divided by new price minus initial price divided by initial price. So that's how you do the price elasticity of demand calculation. And then the midpoint one would be Q1 minus Q0 divided by Q0 plus Q1 divided by 2, P1 minus P0 divided by P0 plus P1 divided by 2. So you can use any of these formulas. It depends on what you want to use. So this example here, this is the, if you're going to do it through the midpoint method for this one, be 30 minus 20 divided by 30 plus 20 divided by 2, and then divide that by 10 minus 6 divided by 10 plus 6 divided by 2. That's how you do this one. So this would be 10 divided by 25 divided by 4 divided by 8. That is 0.4 divided by 0.5 equals 0.8. So that's how you do it with the midpoint method. But if you wanted to do the percentage method, you would do 30 minus 20 divided by 20. Then divide that by 6 minus 10 divided by 10. And then to do that, you would get 10 divided by 20 divided by -4 divided by 5. 0.5 divided by -0.8. So that's how you do that one.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So why you have written divide by 5? Won't it be divide by 10?
Oh yeah, sorry, I made a mistake there. So I'll try this again. Sorry for that. So thanks for bringing that up. So the midpoint, I'll do the midpoint method again and I'll do the percentage. So here we do the 30 minus 20 divided by 30 plus 20 divided by 2, then divide by 10 minus 6 divided by 10 plus 6 divided by 2. and then it's 10 divided by 5 divided by 4 divided by 8 I'm just gonna, yeah, I think I got the revert. I think I got this upside down. So it should be 20 minus 30 divided by 20 plus 30 divided by 2, and then divide that by 10 minus 6 divided by 10 plus 6 divided by 2. And then that's negative 10 divided by 25 divided by negative 4 divided by 4 divided by 8, and then negative 0.4 divided by 0.5 equals negative 0.8. So these should be reversed here. They should be the opposite. So this would be the midpoint method here. And then to get the percent method, you would do here, you would do 20 minus 30 divided by 30, and divide that by 10 minus 6 divided by 6. And then that'd be negative 10 divided by 30 divided by 4 divided by 6, negative 0.33 divided by, yeah, so that would be, so that's how you would do that there. So let's practice this one. So does somebody want to try doing this one? What would price elasticity of demand be for this one? Yeah, good job. So then so you can either use the midpoint method or the percent method. So try that and let me know what you get. So if you're going to do this with the midpoint method, this is how you would do this. So this is how you would do this one here. So it would be 1 divided by negative 0.333, and then that would be 1 divided by negative 1/3, and that would just be -3 here. You got -1.876. Okay. So the midpoint method is more accurate. I think, yeah, the thing with the percentage method, it's not reliable. I think it goes back and forth. Like it may work sometimes, but it doesn't work others. So I would recommend to do the midpoint method. Just because the percentage method, I know how, like when I've used it in the past, it's always been unreliable. That's why I use the midpoint method. So I want everyone to do the midpoint method, just because the percent method is just super unreliable. So you would take the change in quantity divided by midpoint of quantity, and then divide that by, so bracket this here, and then divide that by the change in price divided by midpoint in price.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
So it says the quantity demanded decreased, right? So won't it be like Q1 minus Q0? Like shouldn't it be 5 minus 15? Like even when we're doing the midpoint method?
You can do that. Or you could do, so you could do that, or you could do the
Like keep it
opposite.
positive?
Yes, so you could do it like this, but you would have to reverse the prices. So it would be like, it would be 10 minus 14.
Yeah, so if I'm doing like Q1 minus Q0, then
Yeah.
for prices, I'll also be doing P1 minus P0.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So
But the
yeah, like,
answers would come the same.
yes, exactly. Yeah. So you get the same answers. So if you did it, good question there. So if you did it the opposite, so if you did 5 minus 15 divided by 5 plus 15 divided by 2, and then divide that by 14 minus 10 divided by 14 plus 10 divided by 2, you get the same answer. So it'd be -3. So just so yeah, so it doesn't matter if you do it either way, it'll still be -3. So the price elasticity of demand will be elastic. So this is how you would do the price elasticity of demands on, yeah, so this would be how you would do this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a snapshot of this and post it into our class here. So I'll put this into our class. So that I'll post this in our class so everyone has it here. So I'll put it under learning content just to show this example. So I'm putting that under learning content so everyone can have it. So that's posted. And then let's move on to the next part here. So this is the calculation here. Yeah, so the answer is -3.03. But they did the midpoint method here. So the midpoint method is what they use for this one. And that's how they did it. So I'm just going to post this PowerPoint too, in terms of just so you can have it for your review.